for the first problem here, where we use this sample code in order to test all of our components, in this first part here, we are assigning all the variables values and setting up the variables to use later in the code. In this first part right here, we create a encoder handler in order to start up the encoder down here in this next part of the setup.
Then we move on to the loop, and in the loop we're declaring our button 1, and basically the code is just waiting on that button 1 to be pressed. Once it does, it establishes a run code and a run once. The run once is just going to be the active count of how many times the code's run through, and the run code is just the value that tells the rest of the code down here in the if statement that the code's ready to be begun. Until that happens, this LED is going to be turned on, the first LED, the green one. And as soon as that run code is equal to 1, aka the button's pushed, then we're going to start up our time, initialize our time to be whatever current time the code's on, and a stop time that's 20 seconds later. So once this gets going, it'll turn on the second light, turn off the first, so the red light will mean that the code's running. It'll start to get feedback, so essentially it just pulls all the buttons and gets that information on which button's pressed. It reads the IR sensor and the potentiometer, as well as the encoder, and it establishes the motor speeds to be equal to respectively motor 1, the IR value, and 2, the potentiometer value. Not the exact value, but a scaled value. Then it moves those motors at those speeds in opposite directions. It prints out all of the statuses of everything going, so like the initial time, the stop time, the current time, as well as the status of the encoder, the buttons, the potentiometer, IR sensors, and the motor speeds. Then if you press button 2, all the digital inputs turn on, so the solenoids and the valves. Then if you press button 3, it'll just do the first and third digital input on and the second and fourth off. If you press the fourth button, they all turn off. And then after the time is run out, so as soon as this if statement up here stops reading or stops being true that millis is less than stop time, so after those 20 seconds, it'll kill everything and start the code over so you can begin again. So we'll go ahead and show you here in our actual setup. We'll get this code running. Once it's done uploading, we'll go ahead and start up the code by pressing this button. You can see right here that the green light is on, showing that we have not initialized our testing sequence yet. As soon as we press this button, everything's initialized. These motor speeds will start operating at the IR value, so that'll speed it up, that'll slow it down. Potentiometer, if it was working, we could adjust the second motor speed like that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and wait on this next cycle to come through to test out the next digital inputs. So this button 1, as soon as this comes back to green here, we'll know that the code is finished its operating time and is restarted. So I'll go ahead and start up the testing sequence again. And then I know that button 2 turns everything on. So I start up button 2, and now we can see that these solenoids are both locked and both of these valves opened. If I press button 4, then everything turns off in those digital inputs. And that is essentially the sample code in its entirety.
Thank you.